In this episode of the Gnostic Deluge, Mark and myself delve into the Epic of Abram. Part 2 of this series covers the early life of Abram according to what's found in the Book of the Upright, also known as the Book of Jasher. Nimrod and Abram have a showdown here, and it was really exciting to read through it. Enjoy.
All right, we're back, aren't we?
We are, and we're back better than ever.
Back better than ever. Do you want to put the video on just so you can... Not that we get distracted, but we had an incident. Anyway, so...
You actually said that last episode, too. I did the same thing. Just the audio at first. Remember, you want to switch it? Anyhow, so we're continuing with Abraham.
Yep.
Or Abram. Abram.
Abram. And out of the Book of Jasher, which, by the way, I just found out I was wrong about it meaning that Jasher is the upright. It's actually, Jasher was a name.
Oh, yeah. Jasher.
Because the version of the Book of Jasher that I have.
That's right.
Actually, it says it right on the cover.
The Book of
Jasher, and then written down here like the author
was named Jasher.
And inside it says the Book of Jasher by Jasher.
Yeah. So there was actually a guy named Jasher who wrote the Book of Jasher.
According to this one is a really good printing.
Yep.
Nice,
I agree.
big. If you can see it on video, huge. I mean, lots of space to write things and mark stuff.
Yeah, I like it.
But it doesn't. Brandon's version has a nice introduction to it.
Yep.
And a nice afterduction.
Yeah, it has an appendix.
Where mine doesn't have any kind of. All mine is the chapters and verse. The chapters doesn't have any kind of introduction or anything at the end of it. But
so, in case you didn't catch our humor, the Book of Jasher was not written by Jasher. But it's funny how
if you didn't listen to the other episode.
Yeah. So Book of Jasher. If you didn't listen to the episode yet, or if you missed that part, the Book of Jasher, or I guess Yasher, in Hebrew would mean upright.
Yeah.
So the Book of Jasher would be safer.
Not to say
safer. Yasher would be the Book of the Upright.
Yeah. So there we are. So we're continuing with the Epic of Abram.
That's a good name for this. The Epic of Abram. Is that right?
I like it.
The Epic of Abram.
Well, I was gonna. I mean, what we're focusing on is the Abram versus Nimrod.
Yep.
The epic battle.
So where we last left off,
whoever wins, we both lose, or whatever.
They both lose.
We all lose.
Where we last left off was Abram was actually still a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And Abram was born and hidden. He was sent like we've seen in a lot of other stories that has a chosen one, which we kind of unveiled that last episode, that his name and then the signs of the stars kind of in itself mean that he was a chosen one.
Yeah.
And so...
And even possibly non-believing people were able to discern that through the stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
And so, like other stories, the chosen one was sent off and hidden to be kept safe, so that one day he may return, or she.
Yeah, they're secretly, like, even Moses. I mean, there's that order for all the kids to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
So the woman puts him in a thing, sends him down the river. And then the princess gets him. It ends up that little baby, is saved. But he finds out that later what his destiny is.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have that with Jesus too, sent off to Egypt. Right?
Yeah.
We had that happen a few times. We have it happen with Joseph, where he's not sent away; he's just sold away.
Yeah, and he doesn't know who he is.
Exactly.
Oh wait, no, he does know.
He does know who he is
because he knows his brothers.
It's a slightly different format, but it's a same old, like,
usually
they leave
end up
for a
in
while
Egypt
and then come back.
But usually they end up taught in Egypt.
Something always happens significant in Egypt.
Yeah, and actually, whenever we get into this later, Abram goes to, or maybe he goes to down to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
He actually goes to all the kings.
Yeah.
and that's part of the fulfilling of the prophecy. I think there ends up being 4 kings that he goes to and end up
The 4 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the 4 corners of heaven or 4 corners of the earth. See, the earth isn't flat. The earth's a square, man. That's my new theory. The earth is square. The 4 corners of the earth. That's the thing. Okay.
Not cube. It would have to be a square.
Yeah.
So that would be flat.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
Okay. So it's not flat. Round, it's not round flat. It's square flat.
Like, okay, you have the. Yeah. So this is our new thing. We're gonna start. Is that the earth's a square? It's a flat circle, or it's flat square. Or anyway, we're jumping into some V8s here. We got to get our energy up, dude.
Oh yeah, bring that watercress and spinach in here.
What? 2 full servings of vegetables? Are you crazy? In 1 can? I wouldn't mind getting V8 to be our sponsor.
I think they would do it.
They're from. I mean, I could be an official representative. The Campbell Soup Company, Camden, New Jersey. I was born there.
That's right. I remember you mentioned that before.
Yeah, in Camden Hospital. Camden is
You were meant to.
a very interesting place.
Mark was sent away to Arizona until he was older,
Until V8 came and sponsored our podcast.
and he's going to return.
I will return. Camden needs some help. It's many years. It's the murder capital over time.
Really?
It's like it's right between. There's Philadelphia's right on the other side of the bridge.
Okay.
I think it's the George Washington or not. Anyway, there's a bridge right there, Benjamin Franklin Bridge or something. I drove the bus through because my grandma lived in Pennsauken. Anyway, the bus through, and you're like, what the heck? Like burned out houses, things that you only see in movies, kind of like
cool, yeah.
Death Wish, like the old movie Charles Bronson,
Oh,
that
okay.
kind of inner
Yeah,
city. You're just
yeah.
like, what? This is real?
Yeah.
Especially being from here, out in Arizona.
Yep.
Where everything's pretty much new. But these are old, tenements
old
and all this
homes.
stuff. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is scary. So, but they do have an aquarium and the Campbell Soup place.
That's all that's needed right there.
So you guys sponsor us, and we will reinvigorate downtown Camden. So those are good though.
I can't believe we went to that.
Hey man, V8s are good, especially next time I'm gonna get some spicy V8s. Have you had those?
Yeah.
Those are so good.
Yeah.
So anyway, now let's continue. So he's hidden in this cave. Everybody assumes that he's dead. I mean, a baby was killed. His head was dashed by the king. I mean,
And
the king
most
took the
babies
baby by the feet. I mean, that's just the way I imagine, and
Yeah.
dashed his head upon the ground.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's the second time you mentioned that today, and I hate the imagery. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Nimrod was so, he tried to offer money to the dad.
Yeah.
And that's where the dad kind of redeemed himself. He's kind of like, you come to me, you want my son, and then you think you're going to make it better with money? No, you can have him.
Just take him.
But
You're the king. You'll do anything you want.
And the king's like, no, I insist. Well, give me 3 days. And so he finally comes up with that. So he sends his wife and his nurse to a cave, and they were there for 10 months. Or 10 years.
Which I don't know how the wife can stay there for 10 years, but oh well. Maybe
It
there
was a nice cave.
Yeah,
Hey,
but that's
I
not
mean,
what
Adam and Eve lived in the cave.
That's not my point though. My point was like,
It was a nice cave.
so like, hey, Tara, so where's your wife been?
I would say she's really mourning the loss of her kid.
She heard what
She left me.
She heard what you did.
She left me.
So,
Remember the whole thing?
Yeah, that was horrifying.
And you know what? For some reason, the money that you offered her, that house full of silver gold, just didn't fill the void. So they went to a cave. And so, anyway, Haran takes a wife, Terah's oldest. They have kids. And this is actually, it's interesting. Let's see. Oh,
They have 2 daughters.
yeah, they had 2 kids. Okay. And one of them, well, there was
Milcah
Milcah.
and Sarai.
And you'll see, and later, if you know anything about the Bible, Old Testament, that Haran and yeah, no, not Haran. Who's the other son?
Lot.
There's no.
Oh yeah. What's his name? Nahor.
Nahor and Abram marry those two, the
That's
2
right.
daughters,
Well, we don't. We won't get to that right now in this one.
the cousins. Well,
We don't get to
it,
that.
probably.
We don't get to that part yet. Okay.
Anyway, so but it's just suddenly they kind of tie everything together. A lot of times, all of a sudden, oh yeah, and Lot's born. And you're like, oh yeah. If you know the Bible story, you'll be like, oh yeah, Abram and him hung out down in Canaan. And he rescued him a couple times.
Haran, Haran is the eldest, Terah's eldest,
Yeah, and he'll play into this. Anyway, okay.
and Sarai's name means like princess, right? Hebrew and princess.
Oh,
So my princess,
so what is okay?
Sarai. Of course, when it changes to Sarah, it doesn't mean my princess anymore. But
What does it mean?
I can't recall what would do. Sarah, the princess. No, not that either.
well, I mean,
Princess. Maybe.
Okay.
But yeah.
Anyway,
Interesting.
so they're in the 10th year of life. Abram, his mother, and nurse went out of the cave as the king and his subjects had forgotten about.
Yep.
What the whole Abram affair.
That was 10 years ago.
Like you
Yep.
know. So read verse 5 for us, Brandon.
And when Abram came from the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem. And he remained with them to learn the instruction of the Lord and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was. And Abram served Noah and Shem his son for a long time.
Okay.
I think that's the verse that kind of gave me this little bit of a vision of what I kind of feel like Noah and Shem were like, up in the mountains. Like they weren't in society,
Yeah. Yeah, they had maybe moved themselves out of it or just never joined it because there's the whole war with so that all these descendants, this is 20 generations, and you start hearing about the wickedness and stuff. So yeah, Noah and then Nimrod kind of consolidates them, builds this big city in Shinar.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably outside of it.
Well, and this is kind of my point I was drawing on a little bit in the last episode when we talked about the garment.
Yeah.
Is Noah and Shem, they had the garment, they had the birthright, they were the leader.
Yeah.
Post flood.
Mm-hmm.
And Nimrod became the king.
Yeah, suddenly Nimrod shows up and he's got the garment that Ham stole.
They might have kind of had to be hiding.
Yeah, they're kind of like, okay.
Like they were exiles.
Oh, could be.
Because they didn't have the garment. They weren't officially the king anymore. Whoever has the garment is the king. The leader, the ruler.
One garment to rule them all.
Kind of like that.
Dude, that must be some sweet t-shirt.
You imagine, and then you imagine like how many stories you've heard where the chosen one like goes and visits one of the elders that's been hiding away on a moon or something.
On a moon?
Like Yoda.
Oh, Yoda.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
How many stories
on a moon? Oh, yeah.
How many stories have you heard where like the chosen one who isn't supposed to be alive, and in order to complete their training, they have to like go find the true elders or the true ruler.
Train them up
To train them up secretly.
Yeah, because obviously, it's interesting.
I don't think George Lucas got Star Wars from the Seven Samurai. I think he got it from the Epic of Abram.
The Epic. Yeah. George, tell us your real sources.
We should name these 2 episodes, or these a few episodes, the Epic of Abram.
Nimrod Strikes Back. That'll be the second. That'll be this episode's called Nimrod Strikes Back.
Let's do it. But anyways, yeah.
And then Abram, A New Hope. That'll be the first one. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Let it be done.
So let it be written. So let it be done. So, okay. So there, fortunately, probably for Abram, is that his father didn't really believe in the things that Noah and Shem taught, but they had to keep him hidden. So they said, go with your, go with these guys, because nobody's messing around with them. They're kind of recluses or whatever.
And they're like hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
Like
they're not, nobody's gonna
like,
mess with
they're
them.
Not like us.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're they're gods almost.
Yeah, they must be. I mean, think about that. Like Noah lives 900 years.
For all purposes, Abram went in with he went and hung out with the gods.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing, is that you're 20 generations from Noah, and they're still there. Mm-hmm. Noah and his son are just hanging out.
Yeah, they're up in the mount, like they're up at Mount Olympus.
That could be.
Or at the pyramids or something. Like they're out somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Doing their thing. So, and Abram was in Noah's house 39 years, and Abram knew the Lord from 3 years old. So maybe
That's also interesting, is Terah wasn't teaching him the Lord. So he spent 10 years in the cave, but he knew the Lord from 3 years.
So it might have been
his mother or his handmaid.
Yeah, the nanny.
The nanny or the mother.
Yeah.
Which, how many stories have the nanny that's a crucial part of the learning too? The early rearing of the child, like Moses.
Oh yeah.
His real mother was the actual nanny.
She was, yeah, okay. All right, Brandon, you're just tying it all together.
Correspondence, Mark.
Dude. Well, that's the thing, is that there's certain, in a lot of these stories, whether they're in the Bible or in ancient myths and stuff, they hit all these different levels.
Hey, I'm gonna say something now that I don't think's ever been said before. It's all the same story.
Never heard it. Here, let me scoot over. I think I'm out of the. Oh, there we go.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool.
So okay.
39 years in Noah's house.
Yeah. Noah and his son Shem had taught him, and all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against the Lord, and they rebelled against him, and they served other gods, and they forgot the Lord who had created them.
Which is what the name Nimrod means.
Rebel.
Yeah.
To rebel. Yeah. And that's and so that, but remember this. Nimrod was actually, he could have been pretty old when he was or pretty
young
when, because he was the grandson. He was the great grandson of Noah. But he was born in his father's old age. So that doesn't necessarily mean he might have been possibly contemporary or around the same age as Abram.
Yeah.
For all we know. Because I was like, oh, he's much older. But then I was like, oh, it's his old age.
So he was at least 20 when Abram was born.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that's when he put on the garment. And so he's probably maybe in his 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is just us conjecturing. And we're just riffing here. But anyway, so they forgot the Lord who had created them in the earth, and they made gods of wood and stone, which could neither speak, hear, nor deliver, and the sons of men served them, and they became their gods.
So this is where they're bringing in idolatry.
Yeah. Now, verse 7.
And the king and all his servants and Terah with all his household were then the first of those that served gods of wood and stone.
Yeah. So, and the interesting thing is that Terah has 12 gods of large size, made of wood and stone. Of course, they keep saying that. That's weird. That's the funny thing, is that in the Bible, they repeat a lot of the same phrases, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Anyway.
like they're forcing you to know that the
Made
gods
of
are.
wood and stone.
They're not made of brass. They're not made of.
It's like, what? Why? And after 12, okay, so 12 gods, and after the 12 months of the year, and he served each one monthly. Every month Terah would bring his meat offering and drink offering to his gods. Thus did Terah all his days. So Terah's wrapped up in the
Which is
you know
funny.
what?
It wasn't all his days because later on he goes with Noah.
We don't know. We don't actually. Here's the thing. We don't know that Terah before didn't teach.
No, we don't. It doesn't. We don't know.
Yeah, so actually we're kind of making a conjecture that he had been, but he, or Abram's been gone for 39 years, or he was in Noah's house 39 years, so he's 49.
Mm-hmm.
So this may have happened over time. That all of a sudden the idol thing,
Correct.
you know.
So, at the very least, not to try and apologize for Terah,
Well,
but at the very least, he was doing what the king had demanded. Like he was giving into the social context.
I mean, but he's like, he really bought into the whole.
And he was one of the
religion.
high princes under Nimrod.
Yeah, one of the
and
highest.
so he wasn't willing to give up his office for, obviously.
Yeah.
And so he
He seems pretty comfortable with it. It's not
12 gods.
Yeah. Okay. In verse 12, we can skip. The Lord gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of that generation were vain, and all their gods were vain and were of no avail. Okay, so this is interesting. This is where kind of Abram. I don't know if it kind of goes back and shows how Abram kind of figured out that maybe the people were worshiping the wrong god or whatever. It tells his little backstory on how he came to know God, I guess. In verse 13.
Have we ever heard a
through
story
15.
when someone went up to the mountain for a while and they came back and everybody was serving idols?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of that. Okay.
What's that story? Oh,
Moses.
Gosh, Moses again. Son of a gun.
He's
Moses. Right. Like, it's all, that's what I'm saying. It's the archetype. Uh-huh. It's all throughout it all. And that's why, in the New Testament, they make, especially in the Gospels, they go to such pains to say he fulfilled this, he did that. They're laying out the case. This is, he fits all the things, all the archetypes. Anyway.
No, it's almost like you have to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to be a critic, but it's almost like it's part of like your job. Like if you're gonna write the history, you gotta make sure you get the things that are like, oh, you gotta have this part.
Well, I'm saying, but even in the movies, it makes for that great story. Yeah. That good and evil. You have to have that drama where things aren't working out and they're sent away, but they come back. Remember in Return of the Jedi, like going to see it, and all of a sudden they're in Jabba the Hutt's thing, and there's this person coming in, and they're talking to him, and all language. The guy you're like, what the heck? And all of a sudden you find out it's Luke, and you're like, holy crap, Luke's back. Like, he never looked he had that cool black outfit. He
took off those very neutral white robes.
Because in the last one he lost his hand.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just saying he had been gone, like at the end of the one before that, it was so almost hopeless. He's sitting there, they're putting his new hand in and stuff, and
so some time had gone by.
But he had been trained,
So and that's why it was so good is he comes back and you're like, oh man, he's like kick trash now.
Yeah.
Like he's a real Jedi.
He's a Jedi. He had his lightsaber and all that.
Yeah.
Because he had the fight with his father in the one before, and he got his hand chopped off, and jump down the thing. You know, you're not my father.
Yep.
All crying and stuff. But so anyway, but I'm saying the reason that story is so good is because it just fits that. You can't have it to where the superhero is just all powerful and there's no drama because who cares? Then it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, even in a Rambo movie, you got to have some struggle. You got to have that time where he's finally like, okay, forget this. And then all of a sudden he starts, you know, making his weapons and everything and getting it all. You're like, yeah, he's going to do it, you know? So anyway, so that's, so they're going on the backstory of how he came to figure out that these things that they're not worshiping or weren't gods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 13. You want to...
Yeah. And Abram saw the sun shining upon the earth, and Abram said it unto himself, surely now this sun that shines upon the earth is God, and him will I serve.
So I like this. He's like, hey, you know, I like how they don't just dismiss it out of hand.
Sure.
In the story.
They give like some logic behind it.
They're like, hey, dude, it's freaking sun. It's so bright. And he's like, I'm going to serve it. He given it a chance.
And then Abram served the sun in that day. Of course, the nighttime comes, and he prayed. Okay, and he prayed to him. And when the evening comes, the sun set as usual. And Abram said within himself, surely this cannot be God. And Abram still continued to speak within himself, saying, Who is he who made the heavens and the earth? Who created the earth? Where is he? And night darkened over him, and he lifted up his eyes toward the west, north, south, and east, and saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And then Abram saw the stars and moon before him, and he said, surely this is the God who created the whole earth as well as man. And behold, these his servants are gods around him. And Abram served the moon, and prayed to it all that night. And in the morning, then it was light, and the sun shone upon the earth as usual. Abram saw all the things that the Lord God had made upon the earth. And Abram said unto himself, surely these are not gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of God. And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew the Lord and his ways, and he served the Lord all the days of his life. And all that generation forgot the Lord, and served other gods of wood and stone, and rebelled. Yeah. Keyword rebelled all their days.
Mm-hmm. And Nimroded all their days. Anyway, so I like that story because it reminds me of like kids' logic.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but then it's deep also because with the Egyptians and stuff, with the Ra and all those different things that they were, you know, that was the God going through heaven, and you know, but then he's like, wait, it's gone, where'd it go? And then then he finally realizes, hey, these are not, he says, surely these are not the gods that made the earth. This is just part of the earth. This isn't the gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of God. These are God's handiwork, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. These are the things God created.
Yeah.
So kind of like the bigger thing. It's not, these are just not
well, this jumps into servants. I don't want to spend any time on this, but it goes to the whole like hermetic view of like, you know, the God created the gods.
Yeah.
And there was many gods, and some of them did this and that, and some of them had their own duties.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that that God is manifest in all things, you know, but they're not God.
Correct.
They're just manifest.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Good job, Abram. Very, very hermetic there. Good job.
And it says, King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control. So
he reigned securely.
Yeah, he's got this, you know, power. He's got the garment.
It did mention also, and it does go on this a little bit hereafter, but it says, and all the earth was of one tongue, and was of union.
Yeah.
So everybody's.
I
believe that means everybody spoke the same language.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to believe, at least. And I don't think there's any other. I don't have another interpretation of it. Well, But yeah,
If there, I mean, well, yeah, if it's a total reset anyway that happened, then yeah, why wouldn't they? And
exactly.
people believe that's the Adamic language.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't whatever about that, but that they're yeah. Okay, so there's a thing that happens where all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel, and it names all these people.
Hmm.
But anyway, this united group
They wanted to build ourselves up. Yeah.
let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed. Let's just do this because let's make the most epic city with this sweet tower, and so that we may reign upon the whole earth, that'll secure us in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us. They want to build this huge city and tower to be able to make it to where they will be reign forever.
Hmm.
And that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of the wars of the other people. They want this, big united city.
Hmm.
And so this is where the Tower of Babel kind of myth
This is
idea
Tower of Babel
comes from.
starts. Yeah.
And in verse 24,
And they begin to make the
26,
bricks.
yeah.
They burn the fires, build the city, the tower, and they start building the tower.
Mm-hmm. One of the big things is that the Samaritan, or not Samaritans, what are they called?
Sumerians.
Sumerians, yeah. That's how they built their cities, where they take the bricks and they burn them.
Okay.
That like those huge walls,
Yeah.
and the hanging gardens that were, all that stuff. Like the walls of
Babylon.
Were like mythic,
Yeah.
or like one of the great mysteries of the ancient.
Yeah.
Like these huge walls where they I mean, they're still there today,
Hmm.
in Iraq and all that area.
And so they took the bricks and burned them. Like, did they like melt together or something, or what?
No, it's probably more like a adobe kind of thing where
They hardened.
yeah, where
Okay.
but instead of hardening them just in the sun, they'd actually harden them, and
Fire them.
yeah, because that's with the cuneiform and stuff. Those tablets
Mhm.
that they have so many of them.
Yeah.
So they put the the little symbol, the cuneiform form or letters or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call them, into the press them into this,
And then they would bake them.
and then they'd bake them, so then it'd be solid and wouldn't,
Yeah.
uh,
Versus scratching it in there, they would just like do it when they're soft, and then
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway,
Clever tactic.
clever. And that was the first kind of not printing press, but easy type that they, where they could just press it in,
Yeah.
a precursor to. Anyway, but so they're building. Okay, that for some reason the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. It says
Yeah, I don't.
they were building against. Okay, but here, they were building against the Lord God of heaven. They imagined their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven.
So I guess that I can see that being the sin.
Yeah.
I don't, not building a tower in itself, but maybe their motivation to build it was
you
a
know
sin.
what? I always heard speculation that the reason they were building a tower and it was so high is because they wanted to be able to do whatever they wanted, and they could go up in the tower and not get flooded again.
Oh.
That was always like some kind of rumor that we.
I don't think I've heard that one, but
I mean,
makes
it's
sense.
it's well,
I mean,
it's for kid logic.
Yes, it primitively makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but it never says that anywhere. But in this though, it's saying that they imagine their hearts to war against him, God, and to ascend into heaven. And in verse 26, it says that there's different things that they kind of divided themselves into three different factions of what they wanted to do.
Which I didn't see the value in the factions, but
Well, they weren't. We will. The first said we will ascend into heaven and fight against him.
Yeah.
So that they're like, okay, we're gonna. The second said we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. We're gonna kick those guys out and serve our gods. The third said we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and all their evil thoughts, and he saw the city.
So what's the difference between the first and the third?
They were going to use bows and spears. The other ones.
The other one, like with clubs?
We're going to wrestle. Like a one-on-one boxing match.
Yeah.
Our best guy versus your best guy. So, but it's interesting because they're trying to get into heaven somehow. And like, is this some kind of like a coded way, you know, were they building something, to be able to transport them? Was it an actual tower?
Yeah,
you know, there's all
you can you can go on
but
for
they had
tons
a plan.
of speculation.
Their plan was to destroy the god of, I don't know. Who knows? What's that tower that was in Egypt? The lighthouse, supposedly.
Pharaohs?
Yeah, Pharaohs.
In Alexandria.
I mean, they could like use the
as a weapon.
As a weapon.
They weaponized it.
Supposedly, you know.
Sauron's tower.
Yeah, where they could use the power of the sun and actually cause boats to burst into flames.
So I don't have a lot to say on this, and
no, I don't. I just wanted to go over it.
I know that like I throw in a lot of speculation that doesn't have any kind of foundation, but I'm just gonna say, and I won't go much more on it. I don't think that they were really trying to get to heaven, but I think that if there was any kind of motivation to dethrone God, though, or to change or to build new gods, then there was something significant about a tower.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That we might not know or
maybe
understand.
It was just that they were with this city. They were looking to rule the earth, to be the new rulers of the earth, not God, you know. And they were looking to put their gods above God, you know. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's just a metaphor or something. I don't know.
I mean, how many stories do you know when they build a city and then they build some massive structure in the middle of it that's supposed to be like, you know, to make the king forever. Yeah. You know, anyway, I think it's all there is to it. My other theory would be, and this is half of a joke, is that the tower was like had some kind of like ritualistic,
like an obelisk or something.
Yeah, or like a wizard tower, or, you know, like something that they believed would give them power.
Yeah. And that obviously that's all speculation, but
100%.
But they're implying that
I will privately banter about that later.
Take over heaven or take over God's role.
Correct.
With themselves or with their idols. So, and
what's interesting, I love this, is a third of them wanted to fight God. A third of them wanted to just like replace and make new gods. And then a third of them wanted to fight God.
With bows and spears.
What's the difference?
It's old-fashioned fist fighting versus, I don't know.
Okay, I'm mocking the fact that there's three different trains of thought there, but two of them are the same.
2/3 are the same.
Okay.
Well, maybe it's putting that the division already that they had broken up the supposed united front of, you know, of these people.
I can see that
are already divided into thirds.
Their purpose might not be as important as the fact that there was different factions had different reasons to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, but it talks a lot about this. I'd be, you know, this super huge city and tower. I don't know.
It took like 3 days to get around.
Well, it seems like it'd take at least a day to get up and down, to take bricks up and down, you know. I mean, so it was they're just want to really emphasize how huge it is.
And it later mentions how it took a 3-day journey just to get around the circumference of it.
Yeah. And anyway, so if a brick should fall from their hands and got broken, they would weep over it because it was was like, dude, it took us a day to get this thing up here, you know?
No kidding. Like, we wasted a day for this brick.
Well, imagine just not just the pyramids, but the pyramids, how long that took to build.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you kind of like that epic of a structure, you know? I mean, imagine how much work and everything you put into it.
Yeah, each stone's like 200 tons or something.
I don't even, yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, so, well, there's that story. I don't know. God, eventually, they built the tower in the city and they did this thing daily till many days and years were elapsed. And then God talks to 70 angels. I don't know why 70.
They have to have a special number for it. That's all.
Okay. Who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, "Come, let us descend and confuse the tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his other." And they did so unto them. So for somehow they just can't understand each other.
So they trick them. The gods trick them by what's their strategy? How do they make them? Rather than like fighting them, they actually make them fight themselves.
Yeah, because they can't understand. So from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue. Okay, so each kind of, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, and he would die.
In short, they were all confused, and they were starting to fight amongst each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just they just didn't understand what the other was even trying to...
And it says within many days, many of them died because of battling. It doesn't say this, but because they battled with each other. And the Lord, and here's the three factions again. There was the Lord smote the three factions. It mentions that again.
Yeah.
So,
but they had a thing. Oh, we didn't talk about it, but where they shot up into the air, and the arrows came down with blood, and so they're like, "We got him. We killed the."
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so at one time they had thought that they had defeated the heavens, and all of a sudden this happened.
Well, it never explains that in detail, like why those arrows.
That's what I'm saying. Is yeah. Well, no, it says that when they saw, the Lord knew their thoughts, and it came to pass they cast arrows towards heaven, and all the arrows fell upon them filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, "Surely we have slain those that are in heaven." So they're like, "Dude, we got them."
Yeah.
So God tricks them. I don't know.
By putting blood on the arrows.
I guess.
Maybe those birds. They were shooting a flock of birds went overhead.
It was fake blood. No animals were hurt.
No.
To make God's trick. Anyway.
That would not be right.
Yeah. So, I mean, even a sparrow's fall, God hears it.
Mm-hmm.
So
basically they basically stopped building.
Yeah. Well, it was, after they got divided. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the main point, it seems like, of the Tower of Babel. It's that, and that's why I was talking about the factions already.
Yeah.
When they were building. Like, no, we're going to do it this way. No, we're going to do it this way. They became ununited because they were united. Like, we're going to make this big thing. And as always happens, they're broken up into factions. And
which is the first bullet, or the first important thing about the age of Peleg is when the men were divided.
Oh, yeah. That's true. So anyway, in 38 it says, "As to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof," of course.
Yeah.
"And a fire also descended from heaven and burned," guess what?
Another third, right?
That's right. "And the other third is left to this day, and it is that part which is aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk."
Yeah.
So aloft. Anyway. So if ever they find some giant city or something that's like, just giant.
Yeah, basically it's like a mountain. It's just like a bunch of hills and a mountain.
Brandon, sounds kind of like I can't think of what it is. gosh, something that was buried.
Of a riddle or something.
No. Never mind. It's Gobekli Tepe,
Oh, Gobekli Tepe. Yeah,
it's
like
right in that area, isn't it?
So it's like we've never heard. Have you ever? I never heard of anything that was thousands of years old.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, they talk about circumference. Circumferences are circles, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the perimeter of a circle.
Dang it. Well, no. Anyway, that's the. I'm not gonna. I obviously don't know anything, but
you know where
there are ancient things that they still haven't uncovered. So it would be.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe someday they'll cover the Tower of Babel.
Well, they'll uncover it, or else they already have, and it's just like a bunch of big ruins. The tower wasn't as big as they thought it was, but.
Dude, a day tall? A day's travel?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, anyway, but they're saying that the circumference of it is 3 days walk. I'm just like, okay, seems a little bit. It's kind of like the 4,400 foot giants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, seems a little big, guys. I mean,
yeah. If I walked all day, I wonder.
Just say if you walk, you can probably go 20. Let's just say 25 miles.
Yeah.
In a day, so that'd be like 75 miles.
But that's the circumference, though.
That's the complete.
Actually not too. That's actually more realistic than you would. 75 miles is actually more realistic.
Well, I think it is whenever you think of the size of cities nowadays, but when you think of cities then,
yeah,
you're like, whoa, there wasn't even that many people. So,
well, that's enough of speculation on the Tower of Babel.
There's the Tower of Babel.
The Tower of Babel is now gone.
Yep. So, but that's where the beginning of kind of the breakup of Nimrod's kind of kingdom starts. Him kind of losing power because people kind of made fun of him for that. You guys tried, but.
And I always assumed that Nimrod, because I don't know if in the Old Testament in Genesis if it mentions Nimrod after the Tower of Babel.
No,
but
it doesn't mention Nimrod in connection with the Tower of Babel.
Correct. You're right.
It actually just mentions him in connection with the
garment
with Cush. No, it doesn't even.
I didn't mention
with
that
the
either.
Descendants.
It mentions his great hunter, huh?
Yeah, that's the only thing it says about in the Bible.
So
then it goes on.
I guess my point was I always thought that Nimrod died in the tower.
Oh, yeah.
According to the story, which is not true. Well, maybe according to the story that I knew. But according to this version of the story, Nimrod definitely exists after the tower.
Yeah. But he was part of it, and his princes and stuff. And this is where the earth starts, like you were saying, with the confounding of tongues or with the scattering of these people. It starts dividing into the nations we know. And the whole chapter 11 is all about this person went here, this person went there, or 10.
Yeah.
It's all like, Japheth is going over here. And then all of a sudden, these guys, Sodom, Gomorrah, they go out over towards Canaan and they found their own cities and they name them after themselves. And it kind of goes, so all of a sudden you start. Oh, this is
the birth of different nations.
Yeah, and this is the birth of the nations that you'll hear later. In Abraham goes out eventually, and all of a sudden,
particularly Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, and the cities of the plain.
Yeah.
So this is where they start dividing up. Do you want to drink, Brandon? Do you want to?
Give me. You choose. You choose.
Well, I mean. You brought this.
I'll go for it.
I mean, I bought you that.
Thanks, Mark.
Right? I know you're done with Mountain Dew, but
yeah, I don't drink Mountain Dew anymore.
The mountains of dew.
But because of this episode and the Tower of Babel and the discussion of Noah and Shem might be up in the mountains somewhere, I thought it was appropriate.
Well, they definitely were in the mountains.
They just basically they went
They're
back
just
to they
hanging
went
out
to
where
the
the boat
they're at the
was.
Cave of Treasures. You know, they went back to
Or
where
they went to where they buried. They were probably hanging out where they buried Adam.
Yeah,
that's a callback to.
if you got, yeah, that was great. But
That
yeah,
was, well, there's this thing where in the books of Adam and Eve where they talk about them carrying Adam's body through the flood
and burying him
and reburying him. That's one of his requests with frankincense, myrrh, and
incense.
wait, frankincense,
Gold.
frankincense, and myrrh. Yeah. That is later the three gifts that were given to Jesus, the exact same three. Anyway, it's an interesting little. That's back with under the whenever we talk about the book of Adam and Eve.
And might I add, I will let everybody speculate on their own here because this is. I'm not going to go off on another tangent here, but there is
Brandon
a tradition in Egypt with pharaohs where they would bury their ships at the foot of the pyramids. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they have uncovered these huge.
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting why
ships.
they would bury these ships at the foot of the pyramids. Like what were you know, and it's like the ships were important.
They're just burying everything,
the journey.
Man.
Yeah, they buried everything actually, but
one, it's just it's weird that you would dig something. Well, first off, make something that nice, you know, and then bury it.
Hey, you need them in the next life.
But the cool thing is because they buried them, now they, you know, whenever they
and it's
they're
so
like,
dry.
They're like, now we know exactly how they did their ships. You know, it's always cool to.
Yeah.
Whenever something like that happens, it's like Herculaneum or Pompeii, or actually Herculaneum in Italy, like it.
Oh, because the ash cover.
Well, because Pompeii was crushed from the ash, you know. So I mean, so it was preserved, but not as well because the ash actually collapsed it.
Mm-hmm.
Herculaneum was flooded by is on the other side of Mount Vesuvius, so the mud actually came down there and so filled it up.
It was preserved more.
So it was preserved better, and actually it's really it's cool. You go down there and there's still standing houses, you know, that you can go into and see the stuff on. Anyway, so it's cool whenever because it was actually Pompeii that they were actually really got an idea of how the Romans actually lived because it was so well. It was, you know, that much of it was preserved, even though it was crushed.
Like they still had like paintings on the wall.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm not going to talk about what kind of paintings, but
oh, they were nice.
The nice paintings.
They had some interesting paintings.
So that's what 10 is. 10 is basically a lot of. It's not really genealogy, but it goes over all the same people that mentioned earlier. But what in this case, which cities they went and built. And
stuff. So the scattering of the world from one united people to a divided people who had their own interests.
Some of them named their cities after their own names. Some of them named their cities something else.
Yeah.
But
Cushville
and Magog Town.
Yeah. I like the one they have, like Goya or something, like some. Anyway,
there's tons of them. You have
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, and most of them I haven't even heard of, to be honest. Most of them I never heard of. The only ones I really heard of were like.
Well, yeah, the ones you hear about in the Bible.
The cities of the plains, basically, that Abraham ends up going to later, which we'll find. So.
Okay, well, let's move on. So, in chapter 12, verse 13, and in the 50th year of the life of Abram, son of Terah. 11. Did I say 10?
I said 12.
Oh, 11.
Chapter
verse
11.
13. In the 50th year of the life of Abram, son of Terah, Abram came forth from the house of Noah and went to his father's house.
He returned home.
Abram has returned, and he's wearing this sweet, like, black outfit.
The return of the a black outfit, and
what's his name?
He has a scar on his face.
Yeah.
Luke.
Yeah, Luke. That's the guy.
And so basically, this is like Return of the King here.
Yep.
He had been gone. He's been a ranger for the last 39 years, living out in the wilderness, learning from the fathers. And
verse 16. Go ahead, Brandon.
And Abram came to his father's house and saw 12 gods standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house.
In 17, go for it.
And Abram said, "And as the Lord liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall the Lord who created me do unto me, if in 3 days' time I did not break them all."
Okay.
He gave it 3 days to do it.
Well, yeah, 3 days. Remember, Tara asked for important. 3 days. Hey, I got to think of let me go home in 3 days to do this. But he's making a little covenant right here, or a little, yeah. He's saying, if I do not break these idols within 3 days, so the Lord may do with me the same thing. He will, if I don't fulfill what I planned, I'm gonna do. The Lord can destroy me as I want to destroy the.
And I just want to say, because the whole discourse between Nimrod and Terah, and the deal that they made, or the deal that Nimrod was trying to make with Terah, we covered that in the last episode. I just want to remind everybody who's listening that one of the interesting parts about that part of the story is the cleverness that Terah pulls on Nimrod by using some logic to describe how his plan was flawed and how it actually isn't what he thinks. Okay, take that. That's, I think, there's a little bit of this is a clever part of the story.
Yeah, this is showing that he didn't only inherit Terah's good looks.
Yeah, he also inherited cleverness.
His wisdom.
If you look at the Wikipedia picture of Terah, he's like, they have a picture of him. I don't know how they would, right? But in Wikipedia, there's a picture of Terah, and he doesn't. He's like really like he has like, I think he even has like a, what are those things that monks wear? Have like a.
A skull cap?
No, like the type of hairstyle.
Oh,
like
with the bald.
Yeah, like the halo hairstyle. Anyways, Terah kind of looks like that in the head. But anyways, he inherited Terah's cleverness.
Yeah.
As well. He's gonna, and we'll see what happens.
Here's how it is then. He got his looks from his mom and his wit from his dad. There we go. So he made that little covenant. If I don't do what I say I'm going to do, so the Lord can do to me.
Yeah.
He can destroy me. And so he, in verse 19, he kind of goes and he says, "Hey, Father, tell me, where is the God who created heaven and earth and all the sons of man upon the earth?" And then Terah says, "Behold, those who created us are all within the house." And so he brings him to his idol room.
Yes, he brings him to the room with all the idols. And Abram said to his father, "My Lord, shew them to pray to me, I pray thee." And Terah brought Abram to the chamber of the inner court, and Abram saw and beheld the whole room was full of gods of wood and stone. Okay, it was made of those two materials.
Yeah.
12 great images, and others less than they without number.
So his big old.
So actually 12 great. So that wasn't mentioned earlier. 12 great gods, and then many others that were of lesser.
It's just like they're worshiping it all. And then he's like, "Here it is. Behold, these are they which made all that thou seest upon the earth, and which created me and thee and all mankind." And we know that Abram had already had his little thing where he's like, dude, even the sun and the moon and the stars, they didn't create.
Yeah.
So he's thinking these guys for sure didn't do it. So and then Terah goes and he bows down to his gods, and then he leaves. And then Abram's just by himself, and he goes and talks to his mom.
Yep. He says, "Hey, Mom, it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, my Father has shown me those who made heaven and earth and all the sons of men." So I don't know what he means by that, but
He's like, "Hey, Mom, Dad
just
showed me
other
just
gods.
showed me all his gods," and then he's like, "Hey, because of this, yeah, hey, I need an offering. I want to make an offering to these gods." Now remember, his whole idea is to destroy the gods, so he's like playing along. Hey, Mom, but so he wanted to say, "Hey, Dad, show me the god," and then, "Oh, these are the gods, huh?" And then, "Mom, can you fetch me a kid?" He says,
from the flock.
"From the flock, make savory meat." They love savory meat, even in the Bible.
Yeah, they don't.
That's what
it has to be savory.
What Ishmael or sells his birthright for. Or is it Ishmael?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, it's Esau.
Esau sells. Yeah, that I may bring it to my father's gods as an offering for them to eat. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. So he's kind of playing along with the thing. He's already made his little covenant. I'm gonna destroy these things, but he's like, I'm gonna play along with it to show them. And so his mom gets the kid. The kid, not whenever they say kid, they mean a baby goat.
The baby goat.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And she makes a savory meat. And then Abram goes into the chamber. He sets down the meat, and he waits all day for them to.
Yeah, like, eat the meat. Here's the meat.
And he's just waiting for that. And all of a sudden, Abraham saw on the day when he was sitting amongst them that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them could stretch forth his hand to eat. He's just like, the food's just sitting there. And then Abram mocked him and said, "Surely the savory meat I prepared has not pleased them, or perhaps it was too little for them, and for that reason they would not eat. Therefore tomorrow I will prepare fresh savory meat, better and more plentiful than this, in order to see the result."
Let's try again.
Yep. So then what does he do? Obviously.
So the next day, Abram directed his mother concerning the savory meat. His mother rose, fetched 3 fine goats, and she made them some excellent savory meat, such as her son was fond of, and she gave it to her son Abram, and Terah his father did not know of it.
Like, she made the best. He's
best.
probably like, "Gosh dang it, I wanted to eat that too." And these
guys,
guys,
I was watching that goat since it was born. I've been wanting that one.
Well, no, I'm saying, but like, this is like Abram's favorite dish, and he's just like, "Dude, I'm just wasting this." Like, he saw it the day before. It just sat there. Nobody ate it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay, we're gonna try it again."
Yeah.
I'm gonna get maybe he is gonna give it a chance.
And Abram took the savory meat from his mother and brought it before his father's gods into the chamber, and he came nigh unto them that they might eat. And he placed it before them, and Abram sat before them all day, thinking perhaps they might eat.
Yeah, right.
That's just like, come on. Sometimes the writers of these stories, like, okay, we all know that he wasn't thinking they were going to eat, but
yeah, because he's already. See, did you hear that?
That was me.
That was you. Okay.
Yeah, stomach growl.
All right. And then he sees there's no voice, no hearing, no anything. They don't reach out there. And then in verse 32, he says, "Woe unto my father in this wicked generation, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which neither can eat, smell, hear, nor speak, who have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs which cannot move." And then when he saw all these things, his anger was kindled against his father, and he hastened. He took a hatchet in his hand and came unto the chamber of the gods, and he broke all his father's gods. I love this part. When he had done breaking the images, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the great god, which was there before them, and he went out. But as he's going out, Terah's coming in, because Terah had heard something like,
all shattering and breaking of stone and wood.
Yeah, just like he's wreaking havoc. So as he's leaving the room with all this sweat and probably wood chips and stone chips on him, Terrace comes in, and then Terrace sees. Okay.
The gods are broken.
Yeah. Yeah. Verse 36.
And Terah entered the room and found all the idols fallen down and broken, and the hatchet in the hand of the largest, which was not broken. And the savory meat which Abram his son had made was still before them. That's the cleverness right there.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Nimrod cleverness that Terah pulled on Nimrod.
Mm-hmm.
And when Terah saw his anger, when Terah saw this, his anger was greatly kindled, and he hastened and went from the room to Abram, and he found Abram his son still sitting in the house, and he said to him, "What is this work that thou hast done to my gods?" And Abram answered Terah his father, and he said, "Not so, my lord, for I have brought savory meat before them, and when I came nigh to them with the meat, that they might eat, they all at once stretched forth their hands to eat before the great one had put forth his hand to eat. And the large one saw their works, and that they had did before him, and his anger was violently, kindled against them. And he went and took the hatchet that was in the house, and came to them and broke them all. And behold, the hatchet is yet in his hand, as thou seest. Didn't you see the hatchet in his hand?
Yeah. It's so funny because he's like, okay, and Terah's anger was kindled against his son Abram when he spoke of this. And Terah said to Abram, his son, in anger, "What is this tale that thou hast told us? Thou speakest lies unto me." And then Terah reveals, this is where he gets him. Abram has tricked him to say what he really believes. "Is there in these gods spirit, soul, or power to do all that thou hast told me? Are they not wood and stone? And have I not made them? Myself made them? And canst thou speak such lies, saying that the large God that was with them smote them? It is thou that didst place the hatchet in his hands, and sayest he smote them all."
And then Abram goes, "Gotcha.
Gotcha, Dad.
Yeah, read what he says in 43.
And Abram answered his father and said unto him, "And how canst thou then serve these idols, in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols in which thou truest deliver thee?"
Trustest.
Thank you.
That's
Can
right.
those idols in which thou trustest deliver thee? Can they hear thy prayers when thou callest upon them? Can they deliver thee from the hands of thy enemies? Or will they fight thy battles for thee against thy enemies, that thou shouldest serve wood and stone, which can neither speak nor hear?"
Gotcha, Daddy.
Gotcha, Dad. Your wood and stone gods can't eat, can't hear, can't do things.
And you just admitted it.
And you just said it. I thought they could.
Yeah, you came and showed me this thing, and you said they're the gods, and that they blah blah, and I had Mom make the best lamb soup or whatever, and it just sat there.
You're right. It wasn't goat. It was probably lamb. Oh well, we don't know. But yeah.
Is a kid a goat, or
I don't know. I think it's probably both. Doesn't matter.
So Dad admits it, but Dad is pissed.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh yeah. So, and then Abram keeps going on and kind of
he just pours lemon juice in the wound.
Yeah, he's just like reaming him.
You wouldn't do that, would you, Dad? You wouldn't serve wood and stone, would you?
Yeah. And then in verse 49, Abram hastened and sprang from before his father and took the hatchet from his father's largest idol, with which Abram broke it and ran away. So he's just like, you know what? My point is made. He grabs the thing, destroys the last idol, and just takes off. And then Terah, seeing all that Abram done, he went to the king and stood before him, and he bowed to the king And then the king's like, what do you want? And he relates the story.
So remember 50 years back?
Oh, no. Well, he doesn't go into that
he doesn't
detail.
admit it yet. He
says, yeah, I had this kid 50 years ago. Oh, Amazon.
Get it out of here.
It must be our idol of wood and stone.
Yeah.
But my idol comes wrapped in cardboard from Amazon. We worship. But anyway, so he explains, everything that happened, and so now, and then Nimrod says, "Bring Abram to me." Now the king sent 3 of his servants. They went and brought Abram before the king, and then Nimrod begins to question him. And the king says to him, "What is this that thou hast done?" And then Abram, of course, in 53 at the end,
the large God that was with them in the house did to them what thou hast heard.
And I love, okay, I'll be the king. And so I'm had they power to speak and eat and do as thou hast said?
I'm looking forward. Oh, yeah. And if there be no power in them, why dost thou serve them and cause the sons of men to err through thy follies?
And then keep going.
We won't keep
do thou
going. Imagine? Okay. Do thou imagine that they can deliver thee or do anything small or great that thou shouldest serve them? Yeah. He basically just starts reaming into in Nimrod.
yeah,
the
okay.
King of all the kings.
In verse 56, read that, what he says to the king.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I'm like, holy crow.
If you want Abram to be like if this is one of the verses that makes this the Epic of Abram.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what Abram says. O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto thee forever. This is a guy who spent 39 years living with Shem and Noah.
Yeah.
So he's
come fresh and he's pissed.
He has this newly equipped lightsaber and he's like, no, he's not afraid.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I guess it's Princess Leia that chokes Jabba, but
sure. Yeah.
But he says, I thought thou wouldst teach thy servants the upright way, but thou hast not done this, but was filled the whole earth with thy sin and the sins of thy people who have followed thy ways. And then he just starts reaming him. He's like, because he just came from Noah, like you said. Dost thou not know? Hast thou not heard? Our ancestors sinned therein in days of old, and the eternal God brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed them all, destroyed the whole earth on their account. Mm-hmm. Wilt thou and thy people rise up now and do like unto this work? Put away, and then he starts preaching to him.
He rebukes him.
Put away this evil deed. Serve the God of the universe. Then it will be well with thee. He just got up and preached. But I love how Nimrod's like, did they really? Like at first, he's kind of like, Nimrod's like, had they power to speak and eat and do what they said? He's kind of like, wait, is this real?
He ends it by saying, when Abram ceased speaking before the king and the princes, Abram lifted up his eyes to the heavens, and he said, the Lord seeth all the wicked, and he will judge them.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So, Abram lived up to his little covenant. He said, I'm gonna destroy these things.
Yeah. I mean,
so
how many stories?
He's a man of his word.
How many stories have you heard where the righteous prophet is brought before the wicked king and lays into him with their own logic?
Yeah. And reams him.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought it was the funniest story.
That's a good part of the story.
I love it. Dude, that sun's getting I guess it's down lower now. It's on your head. Brandon's look, it's on half my face. Hi.
That's funny. Yeah, if you're watching the YouTube video, the light is now. We didn't realize
it's from
we didn't realize the light is on our head.
Pull the the other side. Yeah, maybe we can It's gonna get bright in here for a minute.
Go the other direction.
Yeah, maybe it'll work. Yeah, that works better. Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Anyway, so obviously this is not going to go well for Abram.
Because he's actually in Nimrod's court right now. And
The
he's
king of all the world.
I'm pretty sure he isn't going to let Abram just run away like Terah did.
I'm pretty darn sure. Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, he just reamed him in front of his court, too.
Yeah, he called him a simple, foolish, ignorant king.
Yeah.
This is the most powerful person in the world.
So, okay, at the end, so he throws him into prison. Abram's in prison for 10 days in prison, which is surprising that he's not in there for 3 days. Because they always like to go with...
They have to use the number.
But at the end of those days, the king ordered all his kings, princes, and governors, everybody there. And he says, hey, have you heard of him? And he has been disobedient, or not, he reamed me. Thus has it been done to... I threw him in prison. And he wasn't even scared of me. Like, his heart did not misgive him, neither did he stir in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in his prison. He's like, dude, I got the garment. I'm the king, and he just went straight into me. Therefore, decide what the judgment is due to this man who reviled the king, who spoke and did all the things that you have heard.
So they kind of like banter about like whether they should hang him or maybe do worse, right?
Yeah, in verse 5, the man who revileth the king should be hanged upon a tree, is the usual.
That's the usual law, apparently.
But having done all the things that he said, and having despised our gods, he must therefore be burned to death.
So apparently Nimrod has enough order on his kingdom here where if you despise the king, you're hanged, but if you desecrate the gods or worse, then you're burned.
Yeah. So, if it please the king to do this, let him order his servants to kindle a fire both day and night in thy brick furnace. That's why
That's an Amazon reference. Kindle a fire.
Kindle fire, dude. It's an evil device.
So they got this furnace really hot, both night and day. In the brick furnace, they cast, so they'll cast this man into it.
Okay. So night and day, and he commanded his servants that they should prepare a fire for 3 days and 3 nights. So I was bringing up that thing again.
Yeah.
So they're just getting this thing hot. And in Sumeria and stuff, at least I heard that they would actually use petroleum,
to make the
rocks
fire even hotter.
Yeah. That's how they could get it really burning hotter than just a wood fire.
Yeah.
Because there's so much petroleum.
Well, they took them
there.
to a special furnace, the one that was in Kasdim.
How do you know?
Right here. It says it in verse 6.
Oh. The big boy.
Yeah, they took it to the big boy. The king ordered them to take Abraham from prison and bring him. Basically, they brought him to Kasdim. I guess it's not Kasdim. Kasdim.
Oh, I like the other way.
Yeah. They brought it to Kasdim. It's probably the same word, but Kasdim, which is actually where I think that's where Abram was born, right? There's an Ur of Kasdim.
I thought it was Chaldean. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, but the big boy. So that he orders them to be taken. And so everybody's gathered around, and when
it's a big like arena or big
well, they're talking
too.
about like
900,000 men stood opposite the furnace to see Abram.
Yeah, so this
like the whole kingdom comes together.
Yeah, this is a big deal because nobody reams the king and defiles the gods.
So they have a special
deal.
place in Kasdim.
And this is probably something that doesn't happen often.
This is a special place where they probably have like arena seats for the people to watch and observe, right? Because
could be.
It's a special place where they do special exterminations by
Maybe.
fire. I mean, I'm just imagining it. There's no, we don't know.
I'm like, whoa.
You're like, how do you know all this? No, I'm just
It's
making
a very
it up.
special place. They have padding on seats, or they would actually put straw down to pad.
Yeah,
on
I'm just saying 900,000 people.
Because the seats were made of wood and stone. I don't know if you knew that, but
Now you're making stuff up.
just like they're gods. But so they bring Abram into the thing, and the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, and they cried out. They're like, "Wait a second, he's 50-something years old. He's
Yeah,
50
like
years
they
old."
haven't figured it
And
out
he's
yet.
like, "Hey, King Nimrod, dude, this is the man whom surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great stars swallowed the 4 stars." And so they say, "His father also transgressed thy commandments and mocked thee by bringing thee another child which thou didst kill." So remember, Terah is the one that brought Abram before Nimrod right now.
Yeah.
Again. So he was like, Terah was like, "I won't take any money for my kid. No way. King, hey, if you're going to do it, I don't want your dirty money. I don't want your blood money." But now, years later, Abram destroyed his idols, so he decided, "I'm going to bring him to the king." Like, what was Terah thinking?
Yeah, his cleverness kind of went away.
Yeah. Well, but this is kind of one of those things. Sometimes you don't have to deal with, you can deal with things on a personal matter instead of taking it to the law, because sometimes the things that will happen in the law will end up being worse than you could have.
Sure.
Anyway.
And we'll see.
But maybe
we'll see here in a
he's
minute.
fed up. He's just like, "Holy crap, this kid is bad."
Yeah, and he tries to be more clever and ends up backfiring on him. We'll get to that in a minute.
In verse 12, you want to read?
And when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly wroth.
Ooh, I like that.
Wow, that's a phrase that I hear every once in a while in these kind of texts.
Yeah.
He was exceedingly wroth, and he ordered Terah to be brought before him. And the king said, "Hast thou heard what the conjurers had spoken? Now tell me truly."
Go ahead.
Now tell me truly, how didst thou, and if thou shalt speak the truth? Okay, so speak the truth, and you'll be acquitted.
And now Terah is saying that the how upset the king was, because he's like, "Dude, I bashed an innocent baby's head on the ground,
Yeah,
thinking it was the other guy," and he says, "My lord and king, thou hast heard the truth. What the sages have spoken is right." So he admits. And the king says, "How couldst thou do this thing, to transgress my orders and to give me a child that thou didst not beget, and to take value for him?" So the king is like, kind of like, he's like, you gave me the wrong kid and you took the money, but Terah didn't even want the freaking money. So
sure.
that's why he's kind of turning it around. Like, Terah's like, "Dude, I didn't even want the dumb money.
Yeah.
Your stupid money. What was I supposed to do?" Anyway.
Because my tender feelings were excited for my son at that time, and I took a son of my handmaid, and I brought him to the king.
Yeah. And then the king, this sucks, because
This is where it backfires on him.
Yeah, who told you to do this? And then freaking Terah, being a little chicken.
Yeah, Terah was greatly terrified, and he said, "Oh, it was Haran, my eldest son, who advised me to do this." And Haran was in those days that Abram was born, 32 years old.
Yeah.
So he blamed his older son, Haran.
It's like, why are you going to throw him under the bus?
Who is actually, Haran's the father of
Milcah and Sarai.
Milcah and Sarai.
So, and then it puts a little, not a footnote, but in verse 17 it says, "But Haran did not advise his father to anything.
Yes.
For Terah said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king, for he feared greatly." And then the king, of course, says, Haran, thy son, who advised thee to this, shall die through fire with Abram. He's like, okay. Because he already said, hey, if you confess to this, you can...
Yeah.
I'm not going to punish you.
Yeah, but I'll punish whoever.
But
you blamed.
he's like, I said that to you, so... but there's going to be a payment, like...
Compensation, Tara. You might want to look up the law of compensation.
And so he, for the sentence of death. So, now the interesting thing is in verse 18 and 19, where Haran had started to hear Abram.
I know this is the worst part of the story here.
I'm just like, gosh dang it!
This is the worst part of the story. This is like, what was this reminding me of? It reminds me of there's many stories where the someone finally at the end starts coming around, but it's too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Haran felt inclined to follow the ways of Abraham, but
he didn't. He gets it with himself.
Yeah.
And Haran said in his heart, "Behold, now the king has seized Abram on account of the things which Abram did. And it shall come to pass that if Abram prevail over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king."
So
he was gonna.
Haran was just like, he started to kind of have that inkling of some kind of belief, but then he's like, he didn't act on it. So it's kind of almost, he's just like, hey, well, this is the perfect situation. I'm not gonna follow it now. I can know for sure. And it's like, dude,
you made the wrong choice.
Yeah, you should have just followed. You should have listened. Well, I don't know.
Let's see what happens.
It's sad commentary.
Yeah. So basically,
so
Haran was seized with Abram, and they brought them both, and they cast them into the fire. And all the inhabitants of the land, and the king's servants and princes, and all the women and the little ones. Oh, that's so sad. They had to have the little ones watch.
Dude,
and the little ones were there
all the time. People,
back in the old day, yeah.
Yeah, this is like a big event.
You go to this town square and you watch the hanging, and whether you're 3 years old or whether you're 70,
it's better than a circus.
So there was watching, and the king's servants took Abram and his brother, and they stripped them all to their clothes, but not naked. They kept their underwear on.
Yeah.
Right? They kept their lower garments.
They're modest in their murder.
They weren't going to do this unmodestly. And by the way, like wood and stone is consistently mentioned, the fact that they weren't completely naked is consistently mentioned as well.
Yeah, why would they?
Yeah.
That's perverted.
Even after the fire, even in the fire.
Yeah.
Like the ropes will burn. Okay, anyways. And so they bound their hands and feet with linen cords, and the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace.
Yep. And so, this is in 25. But all the cords with which they were bound him were burned, while Abram remained and walked in the fire. But Haran died when they cast him into the fire.
Yeah, he was burnt to ashes. The fire was so hot. But it's because his heart was not perfect with the Lord.
Yeah, he had that little inkling of possible belief, but he didn't act on it, and he was willing, what, I'm just going to wait for this other sign. If Abram does prevail, but Haran was dead before he could find out what happened.
And what I like about this is there's a very original part of this story is when the men who cast them into the fire, the flame of the fire spread over them and they were burned.
Yeah,
and
so
12
it's
of them
saying
died.
It's so hot.
Yeah.
They're getting this door open. I imagine some giant kiln.
Yeah.
The
fire is so hot.
The fire's so hot it kills them, and they push. Somehow they're able. The guys behind are able to push them in. But Abram's in there for 3 days and 3 nights.
So Abram's walking around in this furnace.
But 3 days and
for
3
3
nights.
days and 3 nights. His underwear still's on. Don't worry.
He's wearing fruit of the loom.
Yeah, they didn't burn. The Lord provided that those didn't burn. That was very nice.
Thank you.
That would have been humiliating.
Yeah.
It'd
be like, It'd be like, yeah.
And they came and told the king, said, "Hey, behold, we have seen Abram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which are upon him are not burned, but the cord with which he was bound is burned." So he's freely walking around the furnace for 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're probably waiting for it to cool down, because there's, it's so they'd gotten it hot for 3 days, so now they're like, but they can see in there somehow, and they're like, holy crap, he's
just walking around in there.
Wait, the cords are gone, his clothes are, oh no, he's still got his Fruit of the Limbs. But he's walking around, and his brother's, laying there dead, all burnt up to ash.
Yeah.
And then the king's like, what? No way. And he doesn't believe him. He sends some other people, and they go and they say, yep, he's in there.
And Haran's dead.
So, so whenever the king finds, he says, make haste. Oh, wait. Make haste and bring Abram out of the fire, that you shall not die. I don't know why he says that to them.
So eight of the ones that were tasked to get him out of the fire were died because it was still that hot.
Yeah, I don't know, but and then
12 and 8. 12 the first time, 8 the second time.
And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, he calls out to Abram, and he says, "O servant of God, who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire and come hither to me." And then Abram does it. He comes out, and to the king, and all the servants saw Abram coming before the king, and with his lower garments, of course.
They were on.
Of course.
But the cord was burned.
Mm-hmm. And the king says to him,
"How is it that your lower garments are not burned in the fire?"
How is it that, dude, where did you get those undies? I got to get me a pair.
So the king says, "How is it that thou wast not burned in the fire?" And Abram, go ahead.
He says, "The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all in his power, he delivered me from the fire," of course.
Yeah.
And anyway, of course, it emphasizes that Haran, the brother of Abram, was burnt to ashes. They saw his body, but they couldn't even. They found it totally consumed, totally destroyed.
And Haran was actually 82 years old when that happened.
Yeah. And then what happens is the kings and princes and the inhabitants of the land, seeing that Abram was delivered from the fire, they came and bowed down to Abram. Now, what does he say to them? This guy's a god.
Yeah, totally right. "Do not bow down to me, but bow down to the God of the world who made you, and serve him and go in his ways, for it is he who delivered me from out of this fire, and it is he who created the souls and spirits of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb, and brought him forth into the world, and it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain."
Yeah, so he's just like preaching to him again. But of course, in 39, this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the kings and princes, that he was saved from the fire. And the king gave Abram many presents, and he gave his 2 head servants to him, Oni and Eliezer.
Oni and Eliezer.
And all the king, princes, and servants gave Abram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. And then Abram went forth from the king in peace, and many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. So some people were convinced.
Yeah. This is where Abram gets his
a little
following. Yeah, like a 300 and plus.
Yeah.
So he gets like this little nation following him.
A little following. So, and it says in 43 that from that day forward, Abram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve the Lord. And then this is where Nahor and Abram take unto themselves wives, the daughters of their poor dead brother now, Haran,
who was considering changing sides at the end,
but Ned didn't act.
Yeah. That's
And-
the motto. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah,
You gotta act.
maybe. Yeah, because he could have possibly, if he had, he might have been saved from the flames.
Yeah.
I mean, if, I don't know.
Yeah, we can speculate all day about that. I have speculated on that.
Guys, think about that. Like, sometimes we don't act because we're waiting for that other sign, you know? And it's happened.
In another timeline, Heron actually said, "Screw you, Nimrod. I'm gonna do this," and he took side. He vocally did it.
Yeah.
That's another timeline, though.
Yeah. In the multiverse or whatever.
So Milcah,
Nahor marries Milcah.
yeah, and then Abram's wife was Sarai,
Yeah.
but Sarai
And-
was barren, though.
Well, yeah. So,
That's
okay.
important to mention. You know.
Yeah. You got to know.
It's
I
like
mean, she couldn't even have kids.
Later on, there's
So,
a reason why you have to know that. I think.
Now, there's 2 years later from Abram's going out of the fire. Let's just wrap this up. Nimrod has
A dream.
Nimrod sat in Babel upon the throne. So it seems like the Babel was that still his crown city? Must be.
Yeah, just the tower. Probably.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the tower was actually in, but yeah, we can.
Anyway, well,
Yeah.
yeah. And the king fell asleep. So he fell asleep on his throne. And he dreamed that he was standing with his troops in a host in the valley opposite the king's furnace. You get the next verse and we'll read.
And he lifted up his eyes and saw a man in the likeness of Abram coming forth from the furnace, and that he came and stood before the king with his drawn sword, and then sprang to the king with his sword. When the king fled from the man, for he was afraid, and while he was running, a man threw an egg upon the king's head. Yeah, this is a crazy part of the story. The man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river.
And ever since then, men have been called eggheads. Okay, and the king dreamed that all his troops sank in that river and died, and the king took flight with 3 men who were before him, and he escaped.
And the king looked at these men, and they were clothed in princely dresses, as the garments of kings, and had the appearance and majesty of kings.
And while they were running, the river again turned into an egg before the king. And there came forth from the egg a young bird, which came before the king, and flew at his head, and plucked out his eye. So,
Yep. And the king was grieved at the sight. I would be too.
yeah.
And he woke from his dream, and was agitated, and he felt a great terror.
Yeah.
And in the morning the king rose from his couch in fear, and he ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him. When the king related his dream, that's what kings do. When
Yeah.
you have a dream, the next morning you bring everybody in.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I wonder if actually they'll give us an interpretation. So he calls them all, and in verse 57 they give him,
One of the
oh wait,
guys, one of the magicians named Anuki, said, "This is nothing else but the evil of Abram and his seed, which will spring up against my lord and king in the latter days."
yeah. Behold, the day will come when Abram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's hosts and his troops.
And as to what thou hast said concerning 3 men which thou didst see like unto thyself, and which did escape, this means that only thou wilt escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with thee in battle.
Yeah, this is that
The 4 kings.
the 4, because remember the original, because that was back in the first episode but the original sign at Abram's birth was 4 stars in the heavens, and another star came and gobbled them up.
Swallowed them up.
And so this is now the king is having a dream that's like that. And okay, so now I'll read and that which thou sawest of the river which turned to an egg as at first, the young bird plucking out thine eye, this means nothing else but the seed of Abram, which will slay the king in the latter days. Ooh, so that
You're going to die.
you gonna die, king. And they say, hey,
That's
This
that's our
has our
interpretation.
seal.
Yep.
This is it, man. This is a true. So these guys can still interpret dreams. So, so now, and then in 57, now therefore, my king, surely thou knowest that it is now 52 years since the sages saw the birth of Abram. And if my king suffer Abram to live in the earth, it will be an injury to the Lord. So of course they give, of course, as the first time, there and every time Abram's name is brought up, they're like, kill him.
Yeah. Like, just kill him.
But fortunately for Abram, he was given a servant, one of the king's two servants.
Yep.
Eliezer, who was there and overheard this council. Eliezer runs to Abram until it says, "Hey, they're gonna kill you. Let's get out of here. I like you." I bet you Eliezer became a believer.
Yeah, he was a believer. So he said to Abram, "Hasten, rise up, get out of here." And
61.
And Abram hearkened to the voice of Eliezer, and Abram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noah and his son Shem, and he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servants came to Abram's house to seek him, but they could not find him. And they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found. And they went and searched in every direction, and he was not to be met with.
Yeah.
It's like, where is Noah and Shem's house? Like, where are they? You know what I'm saying? Like, no one is like. It's almost like it's like out. It's like
they're still living in
hidden.
the ark. It's a houseboat. It was a houseboat, dude. So the king, they couldn't find him, and then the king's anger kind of gets diminished. He's stilled, as a dream.
Yeah.
At first, you're just like, and then all of a sudden it starts fading away. So he just kind of like, whatever.
So yeah,
He's
a month
gone.
goes by.
Yeah.
Terah comes to see Abraham in secret, and Terah was very great. And Terah was very great in the eyes of the king. So basically, what does it say there? Terah came to see Abraham.
Oh, well, anyway.
I guess it doesn't mean anything, but
Well, and Terah says, "Let's get out of here." Terah's like, Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abram said. For he's like, dude, now I've lost my oldest son because of me being so stupid, and he said, "Let's go. Because was it God that told him to leave?
it was Abram.
Said just yeah, no.
I mean, it was Noah and Shem.
Yeah, because Abram's telling his father, "Hey, what do you have to live for now? I know you're high up and stuff, but the king just burnt me, or tried to burn me.
Haran's
he
gone.
burnt Haran, and let's go. Let's get out of here." So they do. Hearken to me, and then let's arise and go to the land of Canaan. So that's where the Bible starts off. Okay. Oh yeah, this is good. This would be a good way to end it, Brandon.
Okay.
Where this will be such a good way. Okay, Tara. Okay, so here's what the Bible says about this whole thing we're talking about. In Genesis chapter 11, Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran, and then it gives the generations of them. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldeans. That's what remember.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it says about the death of Haran, which we just had a whole thing.
A whole discussion. Why.
So that's in verse 28 of Genesis 11. And Abram and Nahor took them wives, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the son of Iscah. Anyway, or the father of Israel. Anyway, and then of course Sarai was barren. She had no child. They always have to mention that, like rubbing it in.
Mm-hmm.
And then in verse 31, and Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. That's like all this stuff that we just talked about is summed up is in Genesis chapter 11 is from
It's like
11 is it found in verses 26 through 32. That's it. So anyway, it's a way funner story.
the Epic of
All
Abram.
the epic of Abram versus Nimrod. So, and it's just like the funny parts, like just like, dude, he got the king. Like every time the king looks so stupid.
Yeah.
And then whenever he gets his dad, Abram gets his dad to confess.
Yeah.
So good. So that's Nimrod versus Abram. But as it says, eventually there's gonna be one of the descendants of Abram that destroys Nimrod.
That's true. I wonder who it's going to be.
That's right.
I wonder
And
if
it's
they-
an interesting story because it goes
back to the garment.
once you find out about that, he goes back to the garment, and then it makes sense possibly later down the line with a certain person who gets a certain magical
will return.
coat of many colors.
We will return to Egypt a few times.
Yes. So anyway, well, thanks for listening to this one. Hopefully is insightful.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was. You know what it was for me. This Abram is more of a legend because of these stories.
Yeah, guys, put it in the Bible. Put these great stories in the Bible. They're so seriously, like it needs more fun stories like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, we'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Yep. Take care.
Bye.